Are you in the middle of crafting your meaningful life? I hope so, because none of us want to spend X number of years on this planet, and then we get to the end, and we realize we were so focused on our pleasures and what was right in front of us, we didn't take time to think about the life we wanted to craft. And that's what I do every single week with you. Welcome to Crafting a Meaningful Life, and I'm your hostess, Mary Crafts. I have an amazing guest for you today. People said, well, Mary, we like it when you're on. Well, I like it when I'm on too, but let me tell you, I have only like limited knowledge, and this is like my 250th episode. I have to have guests because I don't have that much stuff to talk about myself. So I look around me for those people who I think have something to share that will benefit you and me. People who have a story. Everyone has a story. Not everyone knows how to tell it. And not everyone sees their story as a gift. And so when I pick and choose people to be on with you, it's because I think this person has a story that will benefit us. How we can build ourselves and others. So to that end, I want you to welcome with me today Nicole Holgreen from Bridle Up Hope. Good morning, Nicole.
Good morning, Mary. Thank you for having me on today.
I'm thrilled to have you on. And as you just heard, the screening process I put people through to be on my show, and you made it.
Well, thank you. It's an honor.
You know, you and I have been friends for a while now, and I'm very connected, of course, with your organization, Bridle Up Hope. So let's start with telling people a little bit about your organization, and then I want to dive into the deeper part of this subject, which is our teenagers now. What's happening with them?
Yeah.
Is it different than when I was a teenager? Is it the same? So let's start with Bridle Up Hope and tell everyone a little bit about you.
Of course, of course. So again, I'm Nicole Holgreen, and I'm with Bridle Up Hope as their executive director. It's an honor to work with this mission, which is to build hope, confidence, and resilience in women through equestrian training. And the 7 habits for highly effective teens and people. We have a girls program and a women's program. I found Bridle Up Hope myself when I was going through a difficult time. I was going through divorce that came out of nowhere for me. And I had 2 kids who were in high school, and I was trying to find a way to navigate that time of life. And I feel like a lot of the individuals who come to Bridle Up Hope are going through something hard. We have a program.
Going through something hard. Isn't that the great lesson of life? Is that we can do hard things and survive and thrive on the other side.
And sometimes that's where our greatest growth comes from, is in the hard. Even though we shy away from it and we don't want to do the hard, that's where we grow and thrive, honestly. You know, some of our most impactful things come from those times, which that's how Bridle Up Hope was established, is in a time of hard. So we started back in 2012. Our founders are Rebecca and Sean Covey, and they started Bridle Up Hope in memory of their daughter, Rachel, who passed away after struggling with depression and anxiety. She was 21 at the time, and of course, as parents, they were completely devastated. And they were trying to find a way to turn such a tragic situation into a positive, which, as you can imagine, at the time seemed absolutely impossible. So they started to get so much feedback from family and friends of Rachel's, where she had reached out to them when they were going through something hard through her 2 horses, Kokomo and Tarzan. They're incredible, incredible animals. And a girl, shared that when her parents were going through a rough time, that she would go on trail rides with Rachel, and it helped heal her heart. And another girl said when she was making poor decisions in life, she would come in muck stalls and spend time with the horses, and it helped, be a positive in that time. And so we see, you name it, we've probably seen girls who have been here who have, been going through something hard, things as difficult as sex trafficking, and things as simple as going into junior high and working on, finding your community and your confidence and who you are as an individual. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on that age demographic. We start for our girls program, we start at ages 12 and go up to 18. We do make a few exceptions for girls who are younger than that. And then our women's program starts at 18. And sometimes our 20 to 25-year-olds will do either the younger program, which is shorter lesson times and less classroom time. So it's an hour and 15 minutes, where our women's program is 2 hours. And quite honestly, because we talk so long, we need more time.
No, not you, not you.
No, not at all. So they do 2 hour lessons for our women. There's 7 where our girls have 14. And so, they come and they learn life skills through these incredible animals. I had a 16-year-old who explained what we did so well. She said, she came to Bridle Up Hope for horses, not habits, which is very common for our teenagers. And she said that she found that we sneakily wove the 7 habits into her like a tapestry. They've become part of who she is.
I love that visual, that these habits were woven into her like a tapestry. And if you've ever held a tapestry in your hand, one of the things you're really taken with is how delicate and yet how strong it is because of that weaving process.
Yeah. Right. I thought that was such a beautiful way, because the girls come and they're playing with horses, they're learning a skill and a sport and finding peace with these magnificent animals. And at the same time, they're learning life skills about themselves. And so it's beautiful to watch these girls, when they come, sometimes they're even curled in on themselves. Like they're small, they're curled in. Oftentimes they'll have their hair, covering their face, or, their hoodie up over their heads. And, oftentimes they'll be behind a parent and not, talking directly with me. And to watch them, I'll take them on their initial tour with their parents and introduce them to their riding instructor. And then we get to see this journey, and I'll see them, oftentimes there'll be several weeks before I see them again, because they're out working with their instructors and the horses. And then, I see them at graduation, they're standing tall and confident and have had this, transformation.
So what is it about working with horses, in particular horses?
I think there's a combination between the two. I feel like to keep your guard up, which I feel like when we're going through hard, oftentimes we have walls that we build around ourselves to help protect ourselves. And, sometimes teenagers are going through a difficult phase. Sometimes it's even rebellious phase where they don't want to hear anything. But when you're working with a horse, those walls come down. Because you're learning about setting boundaries with a horse, this 1,100 to 1,600 pound animal that's, moving around. And so your guard tends to come down. And we teach our girls how to work from the ground and in the saddle. We do a lot of different things, so we're able to accommodate a lot of levels. And it's beautiful to watch how their guards come down, and they're more receptive to learn life skills while they're doing this. And so we take the 7 habits, and we, while they're bonding with these animals and their guards are coming down, we teach them about, setting boundaries and being proactive in your life, putting first things first in your life so that you can be more successful. And then it goes from, personal work to then working on relationships. So, synergizing and working on win-wins with other people, and just to listen to the girls start to, use the lingo initially with the horses and start to understand the habits through the horses. And then again, weaving them into themselves so that they're using them in their daily lives. It's just really beautiful to watch these girls.
One of my first times out at Bridle Up Hope, and I know that you're going to know the young girl that I'm talking about. One of the first times I went out there, she talked about when she first arrived, and she was given instructions of how to work with the horse. I thought, this is just like giving instructions of how to make friends and influence people. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Setting boundaries and working with this horse and getting them to see her and respond, and to taking a controlled position that had boundaries in it. And she said, I worked with this horse for a couple hours and I didn't have any success. And so I just thought, well, I'm done with this program. And she said, I dropped everything on the ground and I just turned and walked away. And I stopped for just a moment to gather my thoughts of what decisions am I making. And her horse came up behind her and put his head against her back. And for just that moment, she realized the impact she had made. Mm. And that by giving in, she allowed in. And she said, I've been back ever since. And now I'm an instructor here. And I just could visualize that of this horse, this gentle giant coming up and just putting his head on her back. I see you. I feel you. I know who you are.
Well, and I've had moments. Horses are naturally very intuitive animals.
Yeah.
And they're always looking for who's the leader. And I've had moments where I've taken a girl just on a tour. She wasn't even sure if she wanted to join, and she had been going through some difficult things. She had been doing some cutting, and she had been in some inpatient care from attempting suicide. And I walked her around, and it was a heavy tour. I could feel her pain as I was with her, and just walking around. And one of our horses, Winston, stuck his head over the stall and just pulled her to him. And she just cried. And moments like that make it so that we're able to give them life skills that they're then able to use during the difficult times. And then just watching them, how they grow. Something else we see a lot in our individuals is, the more work that they put in, the more they're like, okay, tell me about this habit. How can I do this? And sometimes at the beginning, they're so closed off. They don't want to hear anything. I feel like I was that way. I was like, I'm just here to be around horses. My friend told me to come and ride. And then I remember, learning how to set boundaries with horses. And, I remember one of my lessons, I was doing groundwork in a round pen, and this horse is going in circles around me, and my instructor's on the outside of this round pen, and she's coaching me, and she's saying, this horse is going in circles, and I have a training stick in my hand, and she's telling me what to do with my body language. And then after we had kind of done this dance for a little while, she said to me, I want to point out a few things about this horse's body language. She said, horses are always looking for the leader. They're herd animals, so they're always looking for who's in charge, and it's either you or it's them. And where a horse's ears are is where his eyes are. She asked me, where are his ears? And I said, well, they're on you. And she said, why do you think that is when you're the one giving him direction? And I remember thinking, he knows you, or, I don't know, you know what you're doing and I don't. And she said, it's more than that. She goes, how are you standing? And I can remember just thinking I was standing. I didn't think much of it. And she goes, stand taller. And as I straightened up, his ears turned toward me. And he started listening to me. And she said, I want to point out something else. When you ask the horse to turn, he's turning his hind end toward you, which is, in horse body language, that's a form of disrespect. It's pushback. She goes, so I want you to kind of, lift your arm when he does that with a training stick and increase the pressure so he moves his feet, letting him know that that's not acceptable. And so I did this dance with this horse, and, soon he was turning, his head toward me instead of his hind end. And we did this dance. And by the end, that same thing that you were talking about, this horse came up to me. And here I was in this very difficult time of life, and this 1,100-pound animal is seeing me as the leader. And then my instructor said, how can you be the leader in your own life? How can you take what you've learned here and use it in your life to be a leader, to set healthy boundaries, and I thought, oh my goodness, you sneaky. That was sneaky. Because I was present. I was in that moment. I was working with that horse, which almost, for a lot of our girls, they're playing with a horse, they're enjoying time outside. They're in nature. They're with a magnificent animal, learning a skill. And then these habits are being taught throughout. And so it really has such incredible impact. I have girls who come from so many backgrounds, from, foster care, where this literally becomes their home away from home, where they just want to be at the barn, and learning about their circle of control and what they can take responsibility for. Because our foster girls, that's one of the hardest concepts to teach them, is what they have control over. Because, they don't have control over who their family is, where they go to school, what they eat. And so to say, take responsibility, oftentimes they're a victim mentality, where they're like, I don't have control over anything. My life is determined for me. And then to watch them, they can control how they do in school. They can control their behavior, how they're reacting to things. And then to watch their circle grow is just astounding. Some of the hardest situations where, we are a clinical organization. We don't have, inpatient care. The girls don't stay here. They just come for lessons. And we don't have psychologists, therapists here. The girls come and do horseback riding lessons and learn these life skills. And so sometimes, they're going through really difficult things, and to watch, just being outside and with horses can impact their mental health in such a positive way is just astounding to me.
And it's that old saying that I'm always reminded of in love. It's not life that determines your attitude. It's attitude that determines your life.
Right.
Nicole, you've talked several times about these 7 values that you incorporate into this. So in case there are people who aren't aware of Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you've taken those and turned those into tools to use in your program. So
Yes.
Will you list for us what those 7 principles are?
Yes. So the first habit is be proactive, and we teach the girls to take charge of their horse, take charge of their life. Habit 2 is begin with the end in mind. Have a plan for your ride. Have a plan for your life. Mm-hmm. Habit 3 is put first things first. Prepare before you ride. Work before you play. Habit 4 is thinking win-win, remembering your horse's needs, and then remembering your own, remembering everyone can win. Habit 5 is seek first to understand, and then to be understood. Listen to your horse first. Listen before you talk. Habit 6 is synergizing, so becoming one with your horse, and then working well with others. And then habit 7 is sharpening your saw, and then nurturing your horse, nurturing yourself, body, heart, mind, and soul. And then there's a book on the 8th habit, which is finding your voice. And so that's our end goal, is to teach our girls to find their voice through these 7 habits.
I love that, because that is such a skill set, to find their voice. Many teens leave their teenage years without ever having found their voice. Right. And many leave this life without ever having found their voice.
Right.
I want to talk for just a minute, Nicole, about this program that you started in 2012 because the founders saw a need.
Right.
Do you see the needs of teenagers today and the struggles that they go through different than when you were a teenager? And like even me at 69, different than I had when it was the 60s? Are they still the same, or have they evolved?
I feel like they're intensified. I feel like a lot of the same things were present when you and I were, teenagers, but I feel like they're intensified. Even since I've been here, and I've been here for over 4 years now. I started here in 2018, but the pressures put on girls is monumental. It is crazy to watch the pressures that are put on them through social media. That can be a pressure. I feel like COVID definitely played a role in that. I feel like school can be difficult, and some of our introverts who, homeschooled during the pandemic, going back into school and coming out of school, that has been incredibly difficult for them because they didn't know that they could homeschool, And so for these teenagers who naturally, socializing and being in a school environment doesn't come natural to them, that has been incredibly difficult. The isolation and then trying to get them to go back into regular, and then just the regular things, peer pressure, just different things. And I've talked to a lot of, doctors and medical professionals who have, mentioned, screen time, and the amount of time that we spend on screens is impacting the mental health of our youth a great deal. And it's part of, we almost don't even realize, I'll tell, my kids to put down their phones, and they'll pivot to, the Xbox or a movie, which is still a screen.
Yeah.
And then our lives involve so much of that. And that we don't even know how that's going to necessarily impact us long-term, because it hasn't been around for as long as it feels like it has. When Bill Clinton went into office, he didn't even have an email. Email didn't even exist. Like, if you really start to think about how much things have changed so quickly, it seems like it's always been this way, but it hasn't.
It hasn't.
And so we're seeing some of those effects as well. And then just, the things that you and I dealt with, dating and, peer pressure and, finding your friend group. I feel like that can be, devastating. We also don't weigh people's, troubles. People always say, do you have to, be struggling to come there? And not necessarily. Most of my girls come when they're going through a difficult point in their lives. But I have girls who come and they're just working on building hope, confidence, and resilience. And they don't have, a really hard background. But most of my girls come when they're going through something difficult. But that's something that I feel like is so beautiful about the 7 Habits, is they meet you where you are. If you've gone through something as traumatic as sex trafficking, the habits will meet you there and apply. If you're going through something, that seems more simple, like going into junior high and struggling with your community, or high school. I had a girl who came who had been cut her senior year from her cheer team. And she felt as if her life was completely over. And so from an outside perspective, you could say, oh my goodness, it's cheerleading, you're going to be just fine, But for her, that was her community. That was her hobby. That was her friend group, that all of the girls that she hung out with, it was her everything. And so to weigh someone's, struggle is really dangerous. We don't do that here. You're good where you are, and we're going to give you tools to, reach from where you are. We have girls who come who, women who have, had their first child and they're going through postpartum. And there's so much shame around that, even to say that, you aren't excited about being a new mom. I've seen women who, are going through health struggles and are trying to, in retirement age, find who they are and relaunching themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of us who have been moms, when we go through empty nest phase, it's like losing a job.
Yeah.
And so
definitely it's like, yeah.
Right. You've been raising children, and, it takes up your entire life and your day and your night, and then to have, your kids become independent, which we all want, but then to lose that, so
we question whether or not we still have value.
Right. I have had 79-year-old women come here and ride who, were going through physical, limitations as they were aging, and come and find new confidence here and new, purpose. I have a lot of girls who graduate from high school who I see going through, we feel like, when you graduate, you're going to know what your job is, who you're going to marry, how many kids you're going to have.
By age 18.
Right.
Yeah, you're supposed to have made all these life decisions.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and they're forever decisions. I mean, you can't change them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's
right.
crazy.
And so I see a lot of girls who feel like they're not measuring up to what their paradigm was of their future. They felt like, I'm behind. I'm 23. I'm not married. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And sometimes just having them come somewhere that you're like, okay, you are good. You are good. You are learning and growing. You're right where you need to be. Really, it gives them community. We also have, the first part of our program is a girl and an instructor and a horse, and all their lessons are individual. So they get to know their instructor really well. They have a really safe space. And then we incorporate the 7 habits, which is the second part of the program. But then the third part of our program is more around community. So they can come back and help serve. They can help feed the horses and be part of a community. And as they come to service hours, they earn riding lessons so they can continue being part of the barn. We have yoga classes where they can come and learn to breathe, because the 7th habit is sharpening your saw, and we're passionate about that. I feel like that's something that as women, we neglect self-care. We're looking at those around us who need us, and we serve and we burn out as moms, as wives, as so many different, titles that we hold. And then we put ourselves last on the list where, if you're sharpening your saw, you're more able to help others around you and serve in those roles.
Nicole, I can't tell you how many times that has been the subject of this podcast.
Right.
That the first response needs to be to lift yourself, to know yourself, to love yourself, to accept your worth. And from that position, how empowered are you to lift others, to help others, to serve others? But you can't do that from an empty bucket. And I don't know how many times we say that, but still women hold that belief that, if I don't focus about me and I only serve others, that's really the best way. I'm like, to what end? To when your bucket is completely drained.
To take care of yourself.
Yeah, we're told that. That's
told
ingrained
that.
in us.
It's a paradigm that we hold as women. And sometimes we guilt others when they're, taking care of themselves, that, it's a selfish thing, which it is not. Taking care of yourself is so important to be a better you for other people. And so that's why we have extra classes focusing on, breathing and meditation through yoga, and using the creative side of the brain in our art classes to help calm anxiety. A lot of our girls are struggling with anxiety. And so art, whether it's cooking or whatever creative elements you're using, it can help with that. And then we have self-defense classes. Elizabeth Smart has been a huge supporter of us and has actually done events here for Bridle Up Hope, and wrote about Rachel in one of her books. And she has found peace with horses. And so, she has a whole movement around self-defense, which inspired us to help our women and girls through self-defense build confidence. And when they come to these extra classes, they earn riding lessons, they build community. We call it our barn family. And it really is beautiful to watch how it just continues on. They have a hard day at work and they can come to the barn and find peace. They can go to school and they have a place that they belong, and it doesn't end. They can continue coming back for forever if that works with, their schedule. So
who knows, you might find me as a client, because I think that's one of the things I'm looking at aging, and aging gracefully and accepting different limitations and finding new arenas, if you like a play on word, for me to come alive. And I just think about, when you were talking about that, I thought about what would be the beauty for me of connecting and riding an aging horse who is no longer prancing and jumping fences, but connects with wisdom and peace, and to be into their walk and their gait and their gallop, and that we still know how to run. Right. I'm entranced with that thought. Yes. I love that.
You would love it. I would love for you to come.
I would. I know I would love that. When we talked about, have teenagers and their needs and their pressures changed?
Right.
I think that's one of the reasons I have oneness as one of my, is the first and founding principle in my life.
Right.
And that is that it doesn't matter where we live on this planet. It doesn't matter how old we are or how young we are. We are one in the same needs and in the same desires, the same hopes, the same dreams, the same emotions. And I can remember in my high school years, junior high, well, really my entire growing up here. In fact, really my entire life until I turned about 50. That feeling of, where was my place? And was there any place for me? And was I accepted? Was I being rejected? I surely was. Where is there a place for me just to be me? And those feelings are no different for teenagers today. But the bigger difference comes in, I think back upon when I was immersed in that, self-pity. What if I every day was immersed in social media, where I could look around me and see everyone else laughing and being at parties and being engaged, but I was left out. Right. Those feelings would have been intensified by 100-fold. They have so much more around them right now. So much more reason for this program. Yeah. Right.
And I hear stories of bullying. I feel like there's been a narrative where, especially I feel like with women, that you need to be better and put each other down. And instead of straightening each other's crowns, you knock them off. And so I feel like schools can be really, cliquey, and girls can be, mean. And so we really teach our girls. Sometimes I call our service leads who help with them in kind of the barn tour side of it. I call them friendship coaches, because they're teaching the girls how to treat each other, how to accept each other who aren't the same. To go out and see girls from so many different backgrounds all coming together as friends is beautiful to watch. I love it. And so just kind of rewiring some of these negative paradigms that are, entwined in culture, in homes, and, the Utah County dynamic, I feel like has a lot of pressure, especially on, as we talked about, when you graduate, getting married and jobs and all the things. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on women in that area. And so to give them safe space, I think that's important too, that they can come here, feel safe. Oftentimes they'll connect with their instructor. Everyone thinks their instructor is the best instructor. It kind of makes me laugh, because they'll almost get kind of competitive about it. Because our staff here are all girl builders. They're some of the most incredible women that I've had the opportunity to meet. And everyone who walks, from our property manager, he's one of the only guys who works here, to the girls who are our service leads, are, they're teaching them how to muck stalls and feed horses, and at the same time giving them a community, a purpose, a place where they feel like they belong. Because, I feel like with, online and texting, we're losing connection. Texting and FaceTime, it's not the same as, sitting in a room or going to lunch with a friend, but it's limiting all of us and makes us, have a sense of isolation that wasn't here before, and that we're learning how to navigate as well. Because it's, you and I, we weren't worried about, texting and FaceTiming and all the things, we picked up the phone, or we went to their house, and there's just
what a novel idea. Go walk next door.
Right. I was laughing with someone the other day, because I said there's so many things that are changing in our culture that we almost don't even recognize. Like now when someone knocks on your door, it's like, oh my gosh, who is it?
Yeah. How dare you? How dare you come to my door?
Right. Such a weird concept, where before it was an exciting thing. Oh, someone's come over,
See me.
Who is it? And now it's like
some creepo.
Close the blinds.
I was doing some mentoring with a woman the other day, and she told me about this situation where she had been talking with someone in authority, and that they didn't want to hear what she had to say, and that they just kept moving to a different subject, and in the end finally said, I don't want to listen to this. And I just randomly asked her, were you doing this on text messaging or on a face call? Or were you sitting face to face with them next to each other in the same room? She said, no, I was just texting them. I'm like, how can you think to have a connection with someone if that's the scenario you have set up? And then she kept coming back, and I said, listen, I want to be here to support you, but I want you to take first steps. And so the first thing I want you to do is to call and make an appointment to see each other, to meet. And when you have done that, then we shall talk again. But she had to take that first step in making an actual connection with them. Just think of how the things that we say to people online or in a text message that we would never say face to face to them, ever.
Right.
But it's so easy just to put off some little snippet and then close your phone. Yeah.
And that's definitely impacting because, teenagers still are different levels of maturity as well. So I feel like bullying can hit an all new level because you can just send someone an awful text. I had a parent who told me that there was a hashtag made of their child's name, and they were students who were posting pictures of her just, as she was walking around school, they'd take pictures and post unflattering pictures of her with a hashtag. And, it was devastating. This is junior high. That would hurt my feelings at my age, let alone at this young, vulnerable junior high age. And the sad part is, as you were listening to it, you could tell the kids who were part of it, some of them didn't even realize how crazy and awful that was, what they were doing. They just got sucked into the, screen of it. And it almost allows a sense of detachment from the comment or the picture, or, there's not as much ownership to it. And so, I agree with you. I feel like, creating relationships in person is so, so important.
As we wind down our podcast today, Nicole, and I think about the impact that we can make on this planet and how we will come about healing it and creating oneness, we have to see other people. We have to actually see them and realize that they are us and we are them. And that's one of the beautiful things that your program does, is walks them through that step by step, allowing them to see themselves and then seeing themselves in others. Oftentimes after I do a speaking engagement, I will have people come up to me and say, "Oh, I love that. Someday I want to do this. And I love how you do this and blah, blah, blah." And I grab them by the shoulders and I hold them there and look at them. And I tell them, the only reason you saw this in me, because it lives in you. And that look on their face when they realize that and they know the truth of that. I said, if all you see in me is negative, if all you see in me is self-aggrandizement, if all you see in me is this or that, it's probably because that's what's inside of you.
Right.
And which is it? And I said, you saw beautiful things in me, so I know those beautiful things are inside of you. Oh. And I love what you are offering to teenagers, to take a look, to hold a mirror up, so that they can actually see the beautiful, beautiful person that they are.
Right. And the impact that they can have. We're expanding around the world. So we just certified a location in Estonia. We have one in Amsterdam. Yeah, one in Guadeloupe in the West Indies.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. We have our Mapleton location that's run and founded by the Lindleys. And, they're doing Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays further south so that we can get to more girls. We have a Kaysville location, Pocatello, Idaho location. So we're meeting with so many different people who, when we were talking to our Estonia location, clear across the world.
Yeah. And
they're here and they write English over there, and we do both here, but they were, they were looking at all of our cowboy stuff. Cowboy is something that's very American and, Western. And so they came and rode Western, and they're like, this is so crazy that, we're having conversations, people who have never met, and we have the same needs as, we're clear across the world, different governments, different environments, and, we have the same needs. We need to be seen. We need community. We need good life skills, and somewhere to find some peace. And so, yeah, that's our goal.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nicole,
Beautiful.
thank you so much for being on here with me today. If listeners
Such a
want to
pleasure.
learn more about you and about Bridle Up Hope, how to, look into your program, or if they just want to spend time talking about their teenager, and is this something that maybe can help, just phone numbers and contact things are all there on your website. Tell us that website again.
It's bridleuphope.org, and it's spelled like the horse's bridle, not the wedding bridle. So bridleuphope.org.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of our women and girls come in on partial scholarships as well. So we have so many generous donors. You've helped to support us and build us and sponsor girls who otherwise wouldn't have that opportunity. And so, that can also be done from the website. If you're not sure if this is the right fit, we can set up tours so that you can bring, either come on your own or bring someone with you who you want to show this to. And, oftentimes we'll do a tour and people are looking for something that's not, traditional counseling. They've tried counseling, or they've gotten to a healthy space after doing, struggling with an eating disorder, maybe inpatient care, and they're trying to find something more to keep expanding on their healing. And so they'll come do a tour to see if it's the right fit. And so that's an opportunity as well. So, we definitely would love to have, and I want you to come. I want you to come and experience it. And I love that you refuse to let aging get you down. You just continue to, what next? How can I live the best life I can? And that's something beautiful that we all have to relaunch ourselves in different times and different
Continually.
situations.
Exactly.
And you inspire that, Mary.
It's been my great honor to support your organization. I wasn't able to attend your gala this year. I think I was somewhere on a board retreat. Oh yeah, I was in St. George. Mm-hmm. But right after our live auction, you're finished, I got so many texts from people who were there, just said, Mary, you aren't going to believe this. That people were so excited about having dinner with you and you chefing and cooking and emceeing, along with Chef Troy, that this dinner went for $12,000. And I was, are you kidding me? And I'm just delighted to come and support your organization, because you're making a difference, Nicole, right where the rubber is meeting the road. And I thank you. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for your support, Mary.
All right. Until next time, continue to remember that it is an art to craft your meaningful life. And that's why we come back every week, is there's something new, something that will be spawned or touched in your heart from what we talk about. Namaste.
Listen to the full podcast today and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more. Crafting a Meaningful Life with Mary Crafts.